Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Foxy98 here, and welcome back to a brand new video for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here for another episode of my F1 2019 career mode for you guys here at the Russian Grand Prix. And as you can see, first things first, we've got some changes in terms of the development tree. You can see, first of all, Mercedes have made some upgrades. Also, Renault are now catching back up to us in the championship. You can see that we've actually sort of like stalled on the upgrades. My intentions for the rest of the season is to not really upgrade the car anymore. I have the intentions to stay at McLaren until I win the World Drivers' Championship. That is the aim. But for me, I feel like that I could make upgrades now at the end of the season, or I could just gather up all my resource points and just go for a massive push at the start of Season 2, as I feel like that's probably the best route to go. So I'm not really concentrating too hard towards the end of this season. I am just looking to see how many points that we can score. Into the Russian Grand Prix then, into qualifying. It was actually quite a damp and miserable qualifying. As you can see, full wet conditions. My first run here was 0.3 of a second slower than Max Verstappen, 151.5 that we're aiming for. I did go out and try and set another run, but I don't believe it was as quick. Yeah, it was only just about 1/10 of a second up on that, so we remain 1.2 seconds down, but we still managed to get out of Q1. Worryingly though, we are 2 seconds off the pace, but I know that there's more time to find. It was just a case of delving into these wet weather conditions. I've been driving in the dry for all the practice, but obviously qualifying and even the race as well is actually set to be wet weather. So yeah, we need to just try and move on into this. Also, I changed my setup because in practice it was only in FP3 that I find out it was going to be wet. Moving on though into Q2. Now I only decided to do one run in Q2. I wanted to basically limit the amount of runs that I did, because of course I might need the wet tyres again later on. But actually no, I didn't do one run. What I actually did, I lied, is I went back out on the same set of wets that I used in Q1. I obviously used them in Q1, but I'm using them again, because obviously the wet tyres, they're not going to go off in one lap, so you can set a couple of laps. You can see there, in that final two corners, how much time we managed to gain, nearly 0.4 of a second. We do manage to make it into Q3 as well, in P6, behind the two Ferraris, the two Mercedes, splitting the Red Bulls, though, which was quite an interesting situation there. So that was something that I was quite interested in. But of course, like I said, as we need the wets in the race, I wanted to save myself a fresh set of wet tyres in case I needed to go on to a fresh set, because you only get 3 sets for the weekend. Into Q3 then, it is full wet conditions once again, so it's a full wet qualifying session. And as you can see, I went out on this run for just one straight up Banzai lap. No fuel in the car, hot lap ERS, which can be a mistake. And obviously you can see that we have now run out of time in qualifying. Vettel is currently on provisional pole with a 1:49.3. We come across the line, and actually, it wasn't that bad. It was only 1/10 of a second off of Vettel. We finished in P4, but I do believe that the times improved. Who improved their lap times? It was Vettel. So he actually went a set of 48.6. Charles Leclerc with a 49.0. Hamilton then in there with a 49.2. We were on a 49.4, just ahead of Bottas. So yeah.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. It's been a great qualifying session for you. Are you going to carry that momentum?
Yes, because at the end of the day, I am the greatest. No, I actually, well, it's going to be wet, so I should be okay.
How does the poor weather change your strategy going into the race?
It won't. It just means that when it's wet, it's wet.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So there we go then. That is obviously the interview and everything done with Claire. So we're going to be starting in a very comfortable position. P4 for the race. Obviously the first stint is going to be quite difficult because it's expected to be dry for the first part of the race. Then eventually when the intermediate and the wet weather comes into play, we'll see how we can try and mix in with the front runners. But without further ado, let's get straight into the race for the Russian Grand Prix.
Good afternoon from Sochi as we prepare to get underway for the Russian Grand Prix. The championship battle has some time to go yet, but still expect no quarter to be given here on this circuit that made its debut in 2014 and has already seen some classic racing. Situated just 3 miles from the Georgian border, the 3.6 miles Sochi Autodrome has 2 notable overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and then turn 13. 18 corners in total here, 12 to the right and 6 to the left, and it's an average lap speed of around 130 miles per hour. And alongside me to take you through it all is none other than Anthony Davidson. This was a circuit that I think in its inaugural race got off to a bit of a shaky start, but since then it's really drawn the fans in and become a very popular event. What do you think changed?
Well, this just goes to show the importance of fixing problems as and when you discover them. As a complete unknown quantity in 2014, the tyre choice was quite conservative, which didn't really allow much in terms of different strategy options. So it was pretty much as you were from lights to flag. But that was a great learning experience, and we came back the next year and had a really exciting Grand Prix, with battles for the podium going on all the way to the final lap. So hopefully we'll be treated to more of the same this year.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday puts him on pole, and Thomas completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Pierre Gasly and Norris, Hülkenberg, Perez, Weber and Sebastian Vettel. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Magnussen, Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton and Giovinazzi. Albon, Butler, Carlos Sainz and George Russell. Kubica and Romain Grosjean sits at the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Alright, so we're on the grid then here to start the Russian Grand Prix, and it's obviously, as I said before, it is going to be wet, so this is something that we need to take into account here as we get ready on the grid now here for the start of the Grand Prix. We have got 3, 4, now 5 red lights here, and it is going to be... Oh, this is a long light sequence. Lights out, and there it is. Away it goes now, and we get off to a decent start here actually versus Charles Leclerc. Good getaway from us initially, but Charles in the Ferrari now. Breeze is clear now as we go in towards turn 2 now. Bottas though on the inside line here, having a little look, but we go to the outside line now. Try and get a better run. We've gone in a bit too deep though, in towards turn 1. That's given Bottas an opportunity, but we stay into second place now as we go through the long turn 3 here. But look at Bottas, look at the speed he's carrying through turn 3, and he just mugs me off down the inside there, and we drop into third place now. Verstappen there fighting hard with one of the Renault cars, as you can see my teammate as well is just at the back of that train, but it is Charles Leclerc that leads the Grand Prix ahead of Bottas, and then it's myself. Obviously I didn't actually realise that Vettel and Hamilton both had grid penalties, so yeah, we managed to get promoted into second to start with, which is great, but as you can see now, we're just trying to follow along with here with Valtteri, and already you can see that we're keeping up quite nicely with the Mercedes car, not letting him get away. I was really in the groove here in Russia, and I was obviously having a lot of fun around here, but as you can see now, as we go onto the long straight here, Verstappen now has finally managed to get away from that Renault car, so whoever he was fighting is not fighting him anymore, which does mean that's an opportunity for Max to come at us now as we go in towards this very difficult corner. It's so difficult to get that corner right, but you can see here that we're all tucked up behind Valtteri Bottas and might try and see if we can have a run at him at some point as Charles leads the race, but he's not breezing away here, and I'm not exactly sitting back and letting these two up front get away as well either. As you can see, we're very close to the rear of this Mercedes car, in towards the second to last corner. No way there. In towards the last corner. Could we have a lunge? No. Too far back. No point in doing that one. And as you can see, Charles has the fast lap of the race so far. We set the fastest final sector of anybody on that last lap, so showing that we've got some pace. Skipping on to lap 2 of the Grand Prix, and Bottas now darting to get away a little bit from me. However, you can see on your screens now that the rain is now beginning to fall. So already, after just 2 laps, we are now into that phase where the wet weather is going to come. And on lap 4, you can see how much the rain is progressing, but also how much we're progressing onto the back of Bottas again, who initially was getting away from us in the race. Now he's coming back into my clutches as we start to get a better traction here on the exit of the corner now, opening up the DRS up towards Rich Mixture here. You can see now that we're trying to go towards the inside line here versus Valtteri Bottas, really close on the inside there, but we just about hold it, and once we've got DRS, we're managing to get through on Valtteri, and there it is. Then we're back up into second place where we were when we started the Grand Prix, trying to get the car slowed down in towards turn 3 there, and we managed, or turn 2, sorry, and we managed to get that one done, and now we can see, can we potentially set our sights on Charles Leclerc? Lap 6 of the Grand Prix, and it's time for the intermediate tyres. We're really struggling now. Bottas 3.1 seconds back, but crucially, we're catching up to Charles Leclerc in this race. Of course, in the wet, no matter what, like the AIs are not really that good, but as you can see right now, we're really coping well with this difficult part of the Grand Prix, whereby obviously the rain is starting to fall quite heavily as we now dive our way in towards the pit lane here against Charles Leclerc, and let's see if we can try and jump him. You can see Bottas now coming into the pits. He's not going to affect myself or Charles in the pit lane, so actually, to be honest, we're in a good situation here because I don't believe me or Charles are going to have issues in terms of traffic in and out of the pits here. Charles comes out No problem for him whatsoever. Me on my intermediate tyres, box, bye, done. No problems there. And that's in just ahead with Bottas next. So, yeah, none of us got held up in the pits. So, we don't lose any time. We don't gain any time either. And you can see there's all the carnage and the chaos of people trying to come in and out of the pits just behind. We now rejoin out of the pit lane here. I think we've actually lost, actually no, in general, we have lost just a little bit of time to Charles Leclerc. We were right up on his rear wing on the entry to the pit lane, as we've got the Alfa Romeo car of Antonio Giovinazzi out next. But obviously, we're not going to panic too much about him. He stayed out on those soft tyres, which is a bit of a mistake. But yeah, we definitely have lost a little bit of time actually to Charles. So I'm guessing his pit stop was just a little bit quicker than mine. But on to lap 7 of the Grand Prix, we've closed up to Charles Leclerc now. And as you can see, we're trying to see if we can find a way past Nico Hülkenberg in all of this. He stayed out on the soft tyres, so that's really hurt his race. But you can see here, Charles now trying to find a way through as we get very close to the back of Charles Leclerc's rear wing there. Hülkenberg now dives in towards the pit. Charles goes defensive on towards the sector last corner, which just caught me out a little bit. I've now tried to catch him out here, make a bit of contact, just sneak my nose in on the last corner, check for any damage, no damage done, and we have got the move on Charles Leclerc, and that is us up into first place in the Grand Prix. But Charles is not going to have that. He's going to come back at us here in that Ferrari, just literally goes around the outside and absolutely flies past and just mugs me off there and retakes the lead of the Russian Grand Prix. And he is basically issuing a warning to myself, saying if you want to have an opportunity to win this Grand Prix, you're going to have to fight hard for it, and that's what I'm down to do. We actually go a bit wide on the exit of turn 2 there, and this time around you can see we try and take the outside line, go a little bit wide though, and all of a sudden there goes the car slips away from us now, come back car, bit of contact I think to the wall there, but we just about held on then. That could have been so much worse for us in the race, but we just about managed to keep the car intact, and with that in mind, we get straight onto the back of Charles Leclerc once again here, and yeah, this just kind of shows how quick we are in these wet weather conditions right now, and these intermediate conditions are my favourite. As you can see now, on the exit of the last corner here, we get a great run versus Charles Leclerc, and we go down the straight now, but Charles in the Ferrari is carrying a much more straight line speed than I'm carrying right now. I've actually gone with a slightly higher aero setup because I knew it was going to be wet weather conditions, and as you can see, Charles Leclerc defending beautifully there, just not allowing me to come on through, but the traction that we get on the second phase of the exit of turn 2 is enough to just go swooping down the inside on Charles Leclerc and make the move stick, and that is us up now into the race lead of the Russian Grand Prix. But obviously I need to be careful, Charles might come back at me. On to lap 17 of the Grand Prix though, Charles never came back at me. In fact, I was actually in a class of my own right now, like no one was coming anywhere near me. My only major concern were my tyres. I wasn't confident that my tyres were going to go to the end, and I saw that gap there. It's 14.2 seconds. With 11 laps to go, I hope I show how much wear I've got on my tyres. I don't think I do, actually. I believe they were on about 50% at this point, and I knew it was around about 40 to 50%. I knew straight away that these tyres, they're just not going to make it to the end. It was my rear tyres that were really going away. There they are, look, they're about 45%. So, obviously, I just felt like with 11 laps to go, they were wearing out about 4-5% a lap. I just didn't think they were going to make it to the end. So I decided not to risk it. I'm going to come into the pits. I'm going to fit on a fresh set of intermediate tyres. With this fresh set now, I should be able to reclose the gap to Charles Leclerc and then re-overtake him again. We're getting into a period as well where it is actually starting to rain. Starting to rain even heavy, should I say. So we are looking at maybe full wet conditions. So this is a bit of a gamble in some respects because it might be that we have to switch to wet tyres. And if that's the case, then I've just lost the lead to Charles Leclerc. But whilst I'm still comfortable on these intermediate tyres, I need to keep pushing. So the chase begins now to get back onto Charles Leclerc's tail. Onto lap 19 of the Grand Prix, the gap is 7.7 seconds. Onto lap 19 to start lap 20 of the Grand Prix, the gap drops to 4.9 seconds. That's nearly 3 seconds in that lap. Lap 20 to lap 21, gap to 2.1 seconds. Bottas has actually come in for a fresh set of wet tyres at this point now. Myself and Charles Leclerc, with just 7 laps to go, have decided against coming in for wet tyres, and we're just going to stick it out on intermediates now, but I'm really trying to find a way through past Charles Leclerc, once again putting up yet another great fight. But you could just see, and this is something that I believe, I'm pretty sure Arava actually, when he did a video, I didn't watch the whole thing, was talking about the AI he's talking about 5 things that needed to be fixed for career mode as we go down the inside of Charles Leclerc, or try to anyway, but we are going to get such better traction on the exit, but we don't actually make that count, as unfortunately we got caught on the curb a little bit there. So now, as I've got literally an entire ERS battery full of juiciness to use, well, I'm going to use it here. And as we just go now onto Charles Leclerc, following that slipstream, go towards the outside line here. Very tight, go a little bit deep on the brakes there. Just drop it into second gear to get the rotation into the car. And then we can eventually just scoot away now. And that is us back up into the race leader, the Russian Grand Prix, Charles, with no form of defense there, as he is outmatched in the intermediate conditions. I left this clip in here, so we're on to the final lap now of the Grand Prix, and the most satisfying moment of my career mode, as I, the Supreme Leader, Foxy, have just lapped Devon Bullsack. Up yours, mate. Sorry, that was just, I really needed to get that off my chest. That was one of the most satisfying moments of my career mode there. We have managed to lap Devon Bullsack and the Sport Pacer Carlos Bullsack SP Score Peggy 3 VJ Malia Force India Formula 1 team. I forgot the racing point thing, damn it. As we now go on to the last lap here, Raikkonen also moves out of the way now. We managed to lap these guys. It actually, the heavy rain stopped, so the wet tyres were still weirdly faster than the intermediate tyres, but we were eligible to hold on. Charles Leclerc is nowhere to be seen. He's dropped back 13 seconds once again. Yeah, for us though, it was a commanding race which never really looked in doubt as soon as we switched onto the intermediate tyres. Our only concern was when I had to pit for a new set of inters. I didn't know if I was able to close the gap back up to Charles Leclerc, but overall, in the wet, we have dominated here at Russia, and it is a race win. I believe that is race win number 4 for me now this year. I think it is. Anyway, I'm trying to remember. I won in Monaco, which you never saw. I won in Silverstone. And I've won here in Russia. No, race win number 3, unless I've won somewhere else that I don't actually remember. So yeah, really, really awesome stuff. Great win that was. And I was going to touch on it actually. Well, like I said, the AIs, like, no matter what, like, I even turned the difficulty up for this race. I've been racing on about 103, I think it is, for this career mode to get used to the handling in the field. For this race, I upped the difficulty to 105 because I knew it was going to be wet and I was going to be stronger. I upped it specifically because it was wet weather conditions. And the AIs were still terrible. And you saw it there, I was getting 3 seconds a lap. And Arava put it perfectly in his video that I wanted to touch up upon. He did the video about 5 things that need fixing in career modes. He was talking about air performances in the wet. And I completely agree with him. Like, I'm really happy that I'm eligible to be faster than everyone else in the wet, because at the end of the day, like, wet weather, it all comes down to your skill. Like, if you are skillful and you can get the best out of your car in the wet, you can outperform where you should be if you were in the dry. But the problem is when you can out-traction someone, and I can gain 3 seconds a lap on a Ferrari on 105.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts. It doesn't get much better than a win at this track, does it?
I mean, I could win at my home race, which I did, which felt better.
You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret?
Nope, not telling you. Oh, I should have picked the cocky one.
Things are looking up after last week, aren't they?
Well, last week wasn't exactly bad in Singapore. I got a great result there after starting far back, and I got a good result here because I won. So, yeah, sure.
Did you feel comfortable in the wet weather today?
Yes, because I genuinely feel like I'm racing against 0% AI, even though I was racing on 105. Still, that's kind of how I felt it was.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So yeah, there we go, guys. That is going to be it for my F1 2019 career mode video for you here, guys, here at the Russian Grand Prix. Like I said, Codemasters haven't yet released a patch for the game. It's getting a bit long overdue. But yeah, hopefully they try and make some improvements to the AIs in the wet. And like I said, I upped the difficulty because I knew it was going to be wet. And I was still miles faster, so maybe I have to up it even more when it comes to wet weather races. We got the team goal, though, to complete 2 clean races, which is awesome. And we got a contract negotiation coming up. So obviously we were screwed over in the last contract. So now, this time around, I'm hoping that I don't get screwed around, as Jeff there just, you know, congratulates me. So as you can see, their initial offer was expected qualifying position 6th, race position 12th, first driver, hard, and then level 2 on race bonus, and that was that. So McLaren mugging me off. So I went with 6th for my finishing position, level 3 on all departments, and then pit stop efficiency, don't really care about. Unfortunately, that initial one failed, so I went back and I just dropped the simultaneous development system down to level 2, and eventually accepted. So we have got a proposal of a new contract, which is a lot better. Going to give us some more resource points to help save up for the next season. We're back as the #1 driver, and my qualifying can at least be neglected, and it just means I've got to perform harder in the races. But anyway, that is going to be it for my F1 2019 career modes for you guys here at Russia. If you guys have enjoyed the video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe if you're new around here as well. I am going to be making my final upgrades as well, I intend, for this season, and I'm going to do the final 2 pieces to the weight reduction for the chassis, and then I'll go ahead and spend the resource points after Japan to then adapt them, because even though I'm going to purchase them now for the next race, I then still have to adapt them for next season. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care all, peace.